and harness cheaper sources of power through long-term planning. How much power are they expecting from these barges?
At least the first one, 225 megawatts.
225 megawatts? The Small Rivers Dam project could have, I'm sure, provided more than...
But our over-dependency on hydro is also a contributing factor to where we are today.
No,
so
I mean, this is an argument. This is an argument, people make and everything.
Because currently, as we speak, look at what's happening at the Akosombo Dam. The water levels have dropped, and water levels are not controlled by governments, or maybe some human activity to some extent. But clearly, if weather conditions change or shift, you cannot generate the needed power to serve this country. And so over-dependence on especially the Akosombo Dam is also a contributing factor to where we are.
I'm not talking about Akosombo. I'm talking about the small hydro project.
But
the point is that you can't depend solely on that. But the point still remains that hydro works. Hydro works. And that is what is working for us even now. Akosombo is the major contributor to our power needs. So let nobody, make this argument as if hydro is useless and or that it is not a viable alternative. It is. It is.
Yes. Well, I think that is good news. I say so because we all understand the implications of irregular and erratic power supply. Government has never denied or pretended as though, the impact was not detrimental to our personal comfort and even for our industries and particularly the manufacturing sector. So whilst, people may have their own interpretations as to whether they should cry or laugh, I believe that this certainly is going to ameliorate the challenges that we have faced in the power sector. And that the president himself has indicated severally about the sleepless nights that he has had as a result of the challenges we have had in the power sector. So, it is good news that in the short term, the conditions will be improved. But we have to look at a mosaic or a mix of sources of power so that we don't become over-reliant and over-dependent on hydro. As you have said, it is the case that Akosombo still contributes a reasonable chunk of what we have. But given the current patterns in weather, if we don't move very quickly to look at alternatives like wind, like solar, like thermal, certainly we cannot expect to be able to get a handle. You must also look at all of this within the context of our increasing population and the fact that we now have a lot more use for power than before. Everyone now has a gizmo of one form or the other which requires electricity to charge it. So as the population is increasing and we have expanded the reach of electricity across the country, that also puts a lot more burden on what used to be sufficient. So whilst in the short to medium term, this is going to be useful, government is already looking at long-term plans, including policies around making it cheaper for households to be able to procure and install their own solar panels so that we can wean some of the population off the national grid and have enough to support industry. So as we are doing our best and we are going to deliver on the president's promise of 5,000 megawatts.
I think rather than say that, you see our standards are high, we demand more.
Our standards are high, I agree.
But if from what you just said, it means that if hydro is coming in, if the budgets are coming in, that is thermal. And clearly thermal is more expensive to operate or to run. Indirectly, the Ghanaian would have to pay more for power. Do you think that we should just brace ourselves, or there should be some level of resistance? Because people are, tired of the current power situation and clearly are not willing to pay for the power. And why should we be excited about the fact that the budgets are coming in?
Well, I think we should be, because when you are faced with a challenge and there is an effort to try and ameliorate the detrimental effects of that challenge, naturally, I think that even if that effort would require a little more sacrifice, we would opt for that. And I believe that if we can guarantee regular power supply, a lot of people would prefer that to buying fuel, which I know is very expensive. I mean, make no mistake, even those of us working in government, we are all suffering from these conditions. I have to buy fuel from my own pocket when the lights go off where I live. I don't get a coupon. Who tells you that? Well, I don't get a coupon. In your days when you were getting coupons, we don't get coupons. Not even for fuel, for our vehicles, we don't get coupons. What we do is that you have a booklet where it is signed for you by the transport officer, and you go and get fuel once a week. Things have changed.
Oh, at least
they are not the way they used to be.
We
you understand? And that is part of the prudent management
they don't
of the
give
economy.
MPs. We are not giving coupons.
So you fuel the vehicle once a week.
Once a week.
Okay.
And so if I run errands and my fuel is finished, I have to buy. That is part of the prudent management of the economy.
On this energy thing and this electricity business, I recall the president instructed that all government institutions should be hooked into the prepaid meters and all that, which was a very good idea. So we can conserve the energy and use part of the money into other investment and all that. Again, the ECG that they want to privatize, and that buyer that we don't even know who the buyer is. We don't even know.
It's now open. They've not settled on.
Oh, hold on. We need to know who that invisible person is. How was the bidding process done? And again,
have you seen any documentation?
Please. I was on a program when the PRO said they don't even know who the buyer of this who's coming taking what. Because
what we know is that it's now that it has come out that part of the ECG is up. They want people to invest in the ECG, indirectly meaning that we need private investors there. But nobody...
But who says there's no privatization in the ECG operations?
No, they've not settled on a buyer like you're saying. Is that what you have heard?
Yeah, they've settled. They know. They've come to themselves. They've come to themselves.
It is not true.
The privatization of ECG,
Honorable,
for example...
You are a member of...
all the transmissions that the light was sent to the villages, connecting them to the national grid, all that, it's been done by private people. It is not done by ECG staff. The commercial angle department now is like a prepaid. All those vendors that they have, you have your money, you go and buy your credit, you load it into your system, you go and sell it, collect your money. So it's privatized. So if they are going to privatize ECG again, that is why I have my problem. Over 400 workers are going to lose their jobs.
It could be
that is my worry.
Of it. I mean, clearly ECG over the years we can all attest to the fact that it's struggling, and they are.
But now they are doing better. If the system losses has been dwindled.
How do you justify
before the former MD was sacked? The system losses compared to PRSO standards and the international standards has been able to dwindle the system losses drastically.
He wasn't sacked.
I'm telling you, he was sacked. If they take you away from your post and they go and put you at
Siberia,
stop these gymnastics and musical chairs. The man was sacked. He was the MD. He was the MD of ECG and was doing his job. Do you understand? And the man was sacked. Today, we're asking whether he has any mouth even to talk because he's uncomfortable with this privatization, but this ECG and all that.
Look,
but I don't think it's out of place.
So please, I think that the seat of government, you must also pay your bills. Seat of government, you must pay your bills. You are owing ECG about 400 to 500 million Ghana cedis. Ask him, the seat of government, they are owing. All government institutions are owing ECG. They are not paying.
We would get to that.
Me, when I'm paying, they come and
this private institution you are talking about.
Take off my light.
Can you help us understand which private institution this is that you say has the bid
He knows it.
I don't. I'm not
You
surprised.
are alleging. You are saying.
You should tell us.
You should
I'm
tell us.
surprised.
Go to ECG and ask the PRO.
You know?
I heard him say they don't even know what's coming to buy.
I mean,
You
you
are
cannot
owing.
Can you substantiate this?
You are owing
The
ECG.
FGP has a
Hey,
penchant for
when you
making
pay,
wild
it will help
allegations
them
without
to
substantiation.
do more expansion
Can
and
you-
buy more
can you-
equipment.
It's like
Masa,
Nado saying that
Masa.
we spent 10 million producing presidential diaries.
He was quoting from the media.
You make
He was quoting from
wild
journalists.
allegations.
But
that
why
you
would
can't
from
why would a
substantiate.
presidential
Wild
candidate
Why is he not a
for
human
a
being?
me- for a media?
He's not a human
a
being.
presidential
Oh,
candidate?
please, he's not a human being.
Of that
So
caliber.
it's allowed
Somebody
to
wants
be
to
So,
peddle
so now you are saying that I read
You should
that they are
peddle
saying
falsehoods.
that they used a private man and they gave me a presidential letter to go and source for money.
All right.
It's not a presidential letter.
But what is it?
It's not a letter.
But what is it?
It's a letter of acknowledgement.
To go and source for
And
money
it's
for
not
campaign.
a presidential
That
letter.
is even
It's a
more
presidential letter.
serious.
It is
No.
not
How
a
much did you
presidential
collect?
letter.
Mr. Duncan,
How much did you collect?
Mr. Duncan, what do you make of
You did less than that.
the
You were spending
entire
10 million.
the entire power situation, considering the fact that ECG, for that matter, has not done well in debt collection? Maybe now they've taken up some stringent action of shutting down some of the state institutions, like some polytechnics have been shut down, and I mean they've been cut off from the national grid, so they are not getting supply. Do you think that they are doing enough to collect debts owed them? And what would the alternative be, if you have any?
Well, the issue is this. ECG is a national asset. It is owned by all of us. And we have a responsibility to make sure that it thrives. The idea of transferring national asset to a foreign entity for them to make profit out of our toil is indicative of a policy failure.
No,
It is not something that ought to be considered at all.
If it is a necessity to ensure that the company runs effectively, would you say it is out of place and should not be considered, especially when the company is struggling?
There's no necessity about that. That is the point that I'm making. There ought not to be any necessity about that. Are you telling me, in effect, that Ghanaians are incapable of running
No, but
the
if you're
institution?
privatizing an institution, it does not necessarily mean it's a foreign company that is taking charge. It could be local investors.
In this case, from all indications, it is not. Because we'll be...
How do you mean?
What do
we
I
have
mean?
justification for that?
Yes, because we know that this...
Is that your phone?
yeah.
Okay, can you...
This
kindly
concessionaire.
put it on silent?
This... Sorry.
I think we are speculating.
No, we are not speculating.
Because we don't know.
It is the fact that you are not...
I'm not aware that, anyone
Okay.
has been given the green light. As you rightly indicated, it is a process. And indeed, the public-private partnership is not entirely new. And if, of course, there are state institutions which are being poorly managed and are supposed to be turning a profit, and yet all the time public funds have to be used to rescue those institutions. And, it is then decided that one of the avenues of ensuring that they remain viable and productive is to ensure some private sector participation. What is wrong with that? I mean, it is a fact that if you look at some of our state institutions, a lot of them, national assets, they have been poorly managed. A lot of them should be turning a profit. But year in, year out, the state has to bail them out. How long are we going to continue doing that? These are some of the reasons why there is a need to allow some private sector participation so that these institutions would meet their mandate of providing efficient service to the good people of this country.
We'll come back to the bit about the efforts ECG and government, for that matter, is making. I mean, it was a very laudable call on the part of former President Mills when he said that state institutions and the departments and agencies and ministries should all be meted so they can be properly managed. How far have we gone with that? And is it yielding the results for which that call was made? Like you are making a point.
Yes. Now, the point about this is we are saying that ECG is a national asset and should be managed to earn profit for government revenue. Now, is the government saying that it is unable to superintend this objective? Now, if the answer is yes or no, let us look at the combination of factors that have led to this. In the first place, government owes ECG a lot of money, and it has not paid. ECG needs the investments to make procurement of equipment and in order to provide efficient services. So who is contributing to the failure of ECG?
But who is government? Are we all not government?
No, we are not all government.
If there is something like that not quite right.
No, we are not all government. We are not all government. We are not all government. Power resides somewhere. The buck stops somewhere. So we are not all government. Somebody has a responsibility. And that is the person that we should. And anyhow, let us not pretend that we don't know that this economy is being managed by the policy prescriptions of some foreign interests for their benefit. Our whole macroeconomic indicators and policy prescriptions are mounted and recited always by the IMF representative in this country. So let us not pretend that, this country is transferring its resources to private entities. That is what is happening.
Right. Okay.
And the government, I insist, has no moral right to say that Ghanaians should pay more for electricity.
If even it's going to give you reliable supply, you wouldn't want to pay more for it.
No, the only condition. Look, we all put up this institution. We said let's support Mr. Titus Glover to provide electricity for us. You are government, so I pay my bills. He pays his bill. You, the government,
you don't pay.
You don't pay the bill.
You owe.
And you want to make prescriptions to us. You have no moral right. In fact, you shouldn't do it. And if, for example, I think I think the appropriate policy, the appropriate reaction of the public to the government's increase is that we won't pay until the government pays its bill. And let this country, let them cut off everybody.
But how is that? How would that work? How do you get the institutions to run? I mean, half a loaf, they say, is better than none. So if you and I do pay and it gets ECG running, then we can, based on that, get government to also pay.
No, Martin, government must set good example.
Yes, but in this case, okay, well, let's bring Dr.
I have a challenge with your definition of government. Because we are talking about the public sector and public institutions. And so if you say government and government is not paying, I fail to appreciate that point. We have a number of public institutions in this country. And it is also the responsibility of ECG to make sure that it takes up its responsibility of collecting its bills or payments. So they must also be up and doing. There are several places where people have been siphoning and stealing power for years. And sometimes we even know of, persons who are supposed to be working in the interest of ECG, colluding to promote such illegalities. So the issues are much bigger than government paying or government not paying. And by the way, you spoke about the metering. From the last time I heard the Deputy Sector Minister, that the process was almost complete. And therefore, we must necessarily be driving some benefits from it. But you see, we shouldn't delude ourselves in believing that all is well, particularly with our state-owned enterprises. We all know that each and every one of them can be doing better. And it's indeed as a result of greed and selfishness on behalf of we, the very same citizens who have been given the opportunity to work and be managing those organizations. You mean to tell me that all of these state-owned enterprises that are built out year in, year out, if they were people's private companies, such would happen? So the citizenry too has a responsibility to make sure that we do what is right because it is the right thing to do. Not because an institution is called a state institution, we therefore treat it anyhow and dissipate resources, embezzle resources, and feel that it is okay. That is where the issue of morality comes in. We have individual responsibilities.
How come we still have some of these institutions in massive debt as has been described by many?
That is the issue. It is poor management. Do you mean that if you
and what is the current
or state construction company?
Money? If you say poor money,
that is it. Work is being done. If you remember, quite recently, there was a meeting of the board chairs and CEOs of state-owned enterprises, and it was made very clear that the days when they could just do anything and get away with it are over. The assessments are being done. If you don't meet the mark, you are going to be cut. And very soon, as part of government policy, most of these institutions are now going to be going to the capital market on their own to borrow, on their own accord. And this is one of the ways also for us to ensure accountability.
That is another debate.
It has to happen because it is long overdue.
Where would that buck stop?
The argument is abdication.
If you go on your own to go and borrow,
we can't keep bailing them out year in, year out, when we can be using those resources, as we have all alluded to, improve the conditions of the people.
For those loans, who is going to guarantee?
Well, the processes are there, and they should know them. Some of them are already doing it. The Ghana Airport Company, quite recently, they were able to go and get a loan. That is what they are going to use for the construction of the whole airport and others. If they can do it, so can ECG, so can Gridco, and many others.
I'm saying that if, in case they default, where does the buck stop? Is it not with the sitting government for that?
They should not default. People are employed, they are professionals. They should manage the companies the way they would manage their own private companies, which we know they do very efficiently. This is a problem.
Martin, this is an angle that some of us are
you have actually been taking the debate beyond just the fact that like ECG and the rest are unable to manage their resources or manage the companies well. And you know, it then begs the question, if clearly they are unable to manage, what has been done? It's not like a very recent thing that they are unable to manage.
Well, that's what I'm telling you. Programs are in place, processes are in place to ensure efficiency in the management of public institutions. I told you of the standard that has been set. Assessment conditions have been laid out. They were told directly to the face that henceforth this is what is going to happen. If you don't meet the mark, you are going to go. You are expected to manage these institutions the way you would manage your own private institutions. We expect that you'll be able to get a clean record to be able to go to the capital market to seek your own funds. These are some of the ways, because these are systemic issues. So you need some radical action to be able to correct them. And those are some of the things that go on. It's not everything that government does that, we have to come and talk about it. But since this has come up, I must tell you that I've had the privilege of being at such gatherings. And they were told, and it is going to happen. I can guarantee you that.
Effective one.
Because we assess them every year. So when the time comes for the assessment to be done, so the one in charge would do what he needs to do.
So there's a possibility of some people being sacked. If you are not delivering.
That you can be guaranteed. That you can be guaranteed.
All right. So your final comments. We are just about
going through the picture of my mother.
Oh, happy birthday, Teresa.
Belated happy birthday to Mama Tess, and seeing the president today is very, very phenomenal. Our followers seeing us should not see this sort of presence to really demystify or trying to ease down the tension that political opponents are mere enemies. You understand? So for the president to be part of the 80 years birthday celebration of the former First Lady, for me, it's good. And we, the followers who are following us, should emulate some of these examples. The fact that we are arguing here on this platform between myself and my brother does not mean that we are enemies. If the truth is there, let's come out constructively and say as it is. You know, for example, on this same paper, where when you read the story on these NDC chasing Nana-Addo on corruption, when you read the story, it's saying that for almost about 6 audits, they just want to find the faults to say that Akufo-Addo is corrupt, which they haven't found any. Management audit, forensic audit, so many things. But they never find it because the man is not corrupt. So there's nothing that you can do and take it away from. So in my conclusion, I'm happy seeing the president at the birthday of Madam Teresa, and it's good sign for all of us too.
See the way he started so well, and then he decided to deviate.
I cannot, fail to reckon with the 80th birthday of Teresa, Madam Teresa. I think
I wish all of us can
wish
be there.
The very best, and hope she lives longer. But about the economy. About the economy.
Speak up.
About the economy, we should take responsibility. We should have a development policy for our country that is founded on our history. We should not allow others to come and dictate to us what our development policy should be.
Right.
For the past 32 years, this country has been governed under the policy guidelines of what they call Structural Adjustment Policy, SAP. And it has included privatization, liberalization, stabilization. And when you have an economy that needs investments, they tell you austerity. We don't need that.
Okay.
This NDC and MPP have ruled this country for 32 years. And that is as much, in fact, lesser than it took India, Malaysia, Korea, and China to transform their economies. We are still wobbling. We are still a poor country. Unemployment is high. It should not be. Okay. These governments have failed.
But talking about a long-term development plan, the NDPC, the 40-year development plan that we have adopted, it's not a bad idea. So I also want to add my voice to congratulate Madam Teresa Akufo. It's quite a feat. As Tatu said, we pray that we would get there someday. And I think the president making time to go and be part of this celebration certainly is a sign that we can be political opponents, but we are not enemies, and we only debate the issues because we want the best for our nation and for our people. But let me also congratulate TV3. I saw the finals of Ghana's Most Beautiful, and I was very impressed with the quality. I've been monitoring it over the years. I thought that as an academic, the ladies performed very well. They were very eloquent, right on point, seemed to understand the issues. And the topics that they all chose to illustrate are topics that I believe we all should be paying attention to. Child labor and matters to do with women empowerment. All of these are issues that we should take very seriously. So congrats for another feat, TV3 as well.
Thank you very much. Dr. Clement Park is with the National Democratic Congress. He is a presidential staffer and also the NDC's parliamentary, they are yet to...
Aspirant.
Yes, he's an aspirant for the NDC position for Bulsa. Yes, for Bulsa South.
I'm learning from Titus.
Okay. So I think now anytime you greet them.
Oh, yes, I have to.
All right. And then also we have Daniel Ni Kwate Titus Glover. He is Member of Parliament for Tema East. He is the NPP's Member of Parliament for Tema East and also standing again. And then also my far right we have the CPP's representative. He is Eko Duncan. He is with the Political Affairs Committee of the Convention People's Party. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this morning to have breakfast. All right.